a woman was assaulted. Yet later, she fell in love with her attacker. It began one day when Anna opened her apartment door and invited in a stranger. She thought he was the blind date her friend had set up for her and treated him with warmth and politeness. But the man's behavior quickly raised red flags. He was flirtatious, and his eyes were filled with something sinister. This didn't match her friend's description at all. Anna grew suspicious. After a brief conversation, she realized she had mistaken him for someone else. She tried to get him to leave, but just as he reached the door, he suddenly locked it, turned around, and yanked her by the hair. He said he liked her desperately and begged her to give him a chance. Anna fought with everything she had, but she couldn't escape. 10 minutes later, the man, David, finally left. Moments later, Anna's real blind date arrived. Even though the door was ajar, he politely knocked. When no one answered, he stepped inside and froze in shock at what he saw. Once he snapped out of it, he immediately called the police. Even when questioned, he could barely describe the scene. It was too disturbing. Anna had been brutally beaten. Her face was bruised and swollen. She lay motionless in a hospital bed. She had once been a nurse, optimistic, graceful, loved by all her co-workers. Her dream was to overcome her OCD and eventually step into an operating room. But now, in her 30s and still single, her friends had taken it upon themselves to set her up with potential partners. That's how this all began. Although Anna's injuries weren't life-threatening, the emotional trauma was devastating. She stared blankly at the ceiling, her eyes lifeless. As she pieced her memories together, it finally hit her. David had delivered food to her many times. He was a delivery driver. Police managed to catch him before he could flee, but his arrest did little to lift the darkness that clouded Anna's heart. She lived in constant fear, flinching even around her own father. She thought about selling the apartment, but no one wanted to buy a place where something so horrible had happened. So she stayed, alone. Her father did everything he could, cooked, cleaned, cared for her, hoping to bring back the daughter he once knew. Eventually, Anna tried to return to work, but her hands still shook. She couldn't steady them, no matter how hard she tried. She slumped into a chair. In an attempt to help her heal, a co-worker gifted her a medical practice doll, but she couldn't even remove its tiny organs. Her trembling hands wouldn't let her. Frustration took over. She began lashing out, arguing with store clerks over small things, losing her temper in public. She knew she couldn't go on like this. One night, lying on the floor, staring at the scribbles in the doll's instruction manual, something clicked. She sat up, wrote a letter, and mailed it to David in prison. The letter was quickly returned to sender, but she didn't stop. She wrote again, and again. She found a strange kind of strength in the process, regaining her energy, cleaning up her apartment, even renovating it. She started building a new life. After a long wait, a letter finally arrived. "You win," it said, and David agreed to let her visit. The very next morning, Anna put on a sexy dress and headed to the prison. No one could understand why.